It's March 2001. You walk into a record store, or maybe you just turn on the TV and suddenly everything is different. There are these blue-skinned anime characters singing on the screen, and there's this sound. It's disco, but it's not. It's house, but it's pop. It's the future, but it feels like the past.
And just like that, the rules of cool were completely rewritten. We're talking about Daft Punk's discovery, aren't we?
We absolutely are. Welcome to Stereo Current on Neural Newscast. I was reading this incredible compilation of stories recently, 21 different perspectives on how this single album changed lives. And it really got me thinking. It's been over 2 decades, yet we still talk about discovery with this reverent hush. Why do you think that is? Why does this specific record hit people so hard in the chest, even years later?
I think it's because discovery was an act of absolute bravery, bordering on insanity. You have to remember the context. Daft Punk had just conquered the world with Homework. That was raw, gritty, Chicago-style house music. It was cool. It was underground. And then they pivot. They decide to make a shiny, polished, soft rock-infused disco opera.
Right. It was almost a betrayal of the cool kids at the time. I remember people being confused. They were sampling Barry Manilow. They were channeling Electric Light Orchestra. That wasn't supposed to be cool in the early 2000s.
Exactly. It was practically distinct commercial suicide on paper. But that's the genius of it. They didn't care about what was cool in the club scene. They cared about what felt good. They tapped into this universal childhood nostalgia. You know, that feeling of watching Saturday morning cartoons and eating sugary cereal? They managed to synthesize that feeling into audio.
That's a great way to put it. It's sonic nostalgia. But let's dig into the how for a second. When you look at the production, specifically the sampling, it's mind-blowing. I mean, One More Time is obviously the anthem, but the technical wizardry underneath it is staggering.
It is, and it's deceptive. It sounds simple, right? A catchy loop. But if you look at a track like Face to Face, it's a mosaic. It's not just taking a 4-bar loop from an old record. They were micro-sampling, taking a snare from here, a vocal grunt from there, a guitar lick from a third place, and stitching them together so seamlessly that it creates a completely new instrument. It's musical pointillism.
It's like they were building a new reality out of the scraps of the 1970s and 80s. But beyond the technical side, there's the emotional weight. The stories people tell about this album usually aren't about, oh, the mix was great. They're about, this album taught me it was okay to be emotional.
That's the paradox of Daft Punk, isn't it? They put on these robot helmets, they erase their human faces, and yet they make the most deeply human, vulnerable music imaginable. Look at Something About Us. That might be one of the most heartbreaking love songs ever written. And it's sung through a vocoder.
It's strange, isn't it? A robot voice usually signifies coldness or detachment. But on Discovery, the vocoder feels like it's stripping away the ego. It's just pure melody and longing. It's like the machine is crying.
Perfectly said. The machine is crying. And I think that's why it resonates so much with the people in that article you mentioned. For a lot of producers and fans, Discovery was the gateway drug. It broke down the walls between genres. Before this, you were a rock kid, or a hip-hop kid, or a techno kid. Discovery said, no, you can be all of those things at once. It gave people permission to like guilty pleasures.
It really did. It legitimized melody and dance music again. But I want to touch on the visual aspect too. We can't talk about Discovery without talking about Interstellar 5555.
The anime, a masterstroke.
It really was. Instead of starring in their own music videos, they commissioned Leiji Matsumoto, a legend, to make a silent sci-fi film. How much do you think that visual identity contributed to the life-changing status of the album?
I think it's massive. It turned the album into a multimedia experience before that was really a standard industry term. It gave the music a narrative. When you hear aerodynamic, you don't just hear a guitar solo, you see the scene from the movie. It locked the music into our visual memory. Plus, it further removed Thomas and Guy Manuel from the equation. The focus was entirely on the art, not the celebrity.
Which is so rare today. Everything is personality-driven now. But speaking of influence, let's look at the ripple effect. You have Kanye West sampling Harder, Better, Faster, Stronger a few years later, which basically brought Daft Punk into the American mainstream hip-hop conversation.
That was the moment the dam broke. But even beyond Kanye, look at the entire EDM explosion of the 2010s. That stadium-sized, melodic, euphoric sound, that traces its DNA directly back to Discovery. But, and this is a big but, a lot of what followed lacked the soul.
How so?
Well, people copied the aesthetic. They copied the sidechain compression, the pumping bass, the vocoders, but they often missed the melancholy. Discovery is a party record, sure, but it's a sad party record. There's a longing in digital love. There's a desperation in one more time. It's that feeling that the night is ending and you don't want to go home. A lot of imitators just kept the party, but lost the heart.
That's a really profound distinction. It's the difference between a product and art. One thing that struck me in reading those personal accounts was how many people mentioned Discovery as the album that made them want to create music themselves. It felt accessible, yet impossible to replicate.
That's the mark of a masterpiece. It sounds effortless, which invites you in. You listen and think, I could do that. Then you sit down at a sampler and realize, oh wait, I definitely cannot do that. But the inspiration is already planted. It sparked a generation of bedroom producers who realized they didn't need a $1 million studio to make something that sounded like a supernova.
Do you think we'll ever see an album have that kind of impact again? The way we consume music now is so fragmented. We listen to playlists, not albums. Discovery was designed to be listened to from start to finish.
That's the $1 million question. The album, as a format, is definitely on life support in the mainstream, but I think the hunger for a cohesive artistic statement hasn't gone away. If anything, because everything is so fragmented, when something truly cohesive comes along, it hits harder. But Discovery was lightning in a bottle. It was the perfect intersection of analog and digital, right at the turn of the millennium, when we were all anxious about the future.
It was optimistic about technology, wasn't it?
Extremely. And that's something we're missing now. Today, technology is scary. AI, algorithms, surveillance. Discovery presented a future where technology made us more connected, more loving. It was a utopia.
A utopia where robots just wanted to play bass guitars and fall in love.
Precisely. And I think that's why we keep going back to it. It's a safe place. When you put those headphones on and the bells of aerodynamics start chiming, the world makes sense for a few minutes.
It's interesting you mentioned the safe place. One of the stories I read was about someone who used the album as a shield during a really tough time in their life. It wasn't just entertainment, it was a coping mechanism. The relentless positivity of One More Time isn't just hedonism, it's survival.
Survival through joy. I like that. It's a defiance of darkness. And you know, looking back at the legacy of Daft Punk now that they've officially split up, Discovery stands as their thesis statement. Homework was the introduction, Human After All was the gritty deconstruction, and Random Access Memories was the sophisticated farewell. But Discovery? That was the peak of their magic.
It feels like the moment where they managed to balance everything perfectly. The underground credibility and the pop sensibility, the man and the machine.
And the irony is, by trying to create these robotic personas, they became the most recognizable human icons in dance music history. They proved that you don't need a face to have an identity. You just need a vision.
So, if you had to summarize the legacy of this album in one sentence for someone who, God forbid, has never heard it, what would you say?
I'd say Discovery is the sound of your best childhood memories being projected into the future. It's an album that proved electronic music could have a soul, and that sometimes you have to wear a mask to show who you really are.
Beautifully put. It really makes you want to go back and listen to the whole thing front to back, doesn't it?
I'm already queuing it up.
Same here. It's been 20 years, but honestly, it feels like it just dropped yesterday. Thanks for taking this trip down memory lane with me.
Anytime. The music sounds better with you.
I see what you did there. Until next time.